So my name is Celeste Duarte, and I graduated pharmacy school in 2013, so fairly recently, right when I graduated. So pharmacy school is a 6-year to 8-year program typically. University of Texas does a 6-year program, so you only get, well, they can do a 4-year I think as well, but you only get your Doctor of Pharmacy upon graduating. So you don't have a bachelor's degree or anything like that. And then some people will do a bachelor's first and then they'll go into pharmacy school. I actually did an early admissions program because I knew I wanted to be a pharmacist since I was in like 10th grade, which is really weird. But I did an early admissions program, so I got a bachelor's degree in gen science in 3 years, and then I doubled up my last year with my first year of pharmacy school, so I did mine in 7 years. There are some colleges where you can do 6 to 7 years because you are taking school full-time, like all year round, so that's kind of a different way to do it too. But I graduated in 2013. Upon graduating, you can do a residency or you can go straight into retail and not do a residency. And I chose to not do a residency, and I worked for Target Pharmacy when I first got out. I started as a pharmacist in charge, which is basically a manager of a pharmacy. I worked for Target for a few years. I really loved the company. CVS bought Target Pharmacy, and at that point my decision was to either learn a new computer system with CVS or kind of see what else was out there, and that's how I landed here at Avella. So I was a staff pharmacist full-time for about 6 months, and then I became the pharmacist in charge this January. So I have retail and specialty pharmacy experience.
So, where did you attend school?
Yeah, I went to Oregon State University. So I was living in Oregon at the time. They have a wonderful college of pharmacy. I actually applied to University of Texas for undergrad as well because I knew they had a pharmacy school too. And I got in, but the out-of-state tuition is just crazy. And Oregon State University offered an early admissions program. It's called the EAP program, where you can have basically your spot in pharmacy school held all throughout your undergrad. So as long as you maintain a certain GPA, then your spot's just held and it's just less pressure, and it was in-state tuition. So it was a wonderful college, but that's where I ended up doing my undergrad again, my pharmacy school.
Okay. So you said earlier that you got a major in just general science. Why did you choose that major?
Gen science was actually, it was the best major I felt like for pharmacy school. Part of the reason that I picked pharmacy is I love math and science. So it's a really good field if you feel really comfortable in those areas. I really liked chemistry in general. I was one class, so I guess 4 credits away from getting a degree in chemistry. But I didn't want to take that one class. And I was already in pharmacy school at the time, so I didn't really feel the need to. But I think any of the science backgrounds is a really good launching point for pharmacy school because it already kind of sets you up on a scientific base. Right. There are many people that get degrees in so many different areas and still want to pursue pharmacy, and that's fine. I just think having a background in science was really important, and that's kind of where my early admissions program filtered me into as well.
So, as this is for our bio class, how would you say like the aspects of biology kind of play into your role as a pharmacist?
You know, so I didn't take too much biology in general, or like general biology, but honestly, one of my favorite undergrad classes was anatomy and physiology. I thought that it was so cool and so interesting, and basically, I mean, if you understand the principles of anatomy and physiology, which are biology, you can just understand so much about the human body. So I think that on that aspect, it's very important. Also, molecular biology is very important for pharmacy and super interesting. The way that cells interact. Different receptors on the cells. I mean, that's all like paramount. Like, I look at that every day. So biology plays a huge part into what I do.
Okay, so earlier you were saying that since like 10th grade you were wanting to be a pharmacist. So what drew you to pharmacy?
Yeah, so it was kind of a process of elimination for me, to be honest. I never felt like it was like a calling per se. Like, I was never like, oh my gosh, this is it for me. I have a good friend who actually just started pharmacy school, and her grandfather was a pharmacist, and so for her, she got exposure to that field, and that's a really cool way to get into the field too. I knew nothing about pharmacy when I decided I wanted to be a pharmacist. It was just a process of elimination. And I think my mom really kind of helped guide me and coach me through that. She was a nurse, or she is a nurse, but she became a nurse in her like late 30s, so she didn't really have like a career path until she was older, and I think she just really wanted me to have a career path. She wouldn't allow me to go to community college because she really wanted me to have like a dorm life experience my first year and just do all these things that she didn't do, so which I'm very thankful for. But so it was a process of elimination and also looking at what I was good at. So I was always really good at math and science. I always liked math and science in high school. I just kind of gravitated towards it. And then looking at my life structure, I love pharmacy because I am able to leave at the end of the day and go home and be home and not have to worry about anything else. So I was really interested in dermatology at first. I thought that that was really cool. You have to be really the top of your class in med school to even get a dermatology rotation, which it's not that I didn't think I could do that, I just didn't know if I wanted to sacrifice that much of my early 20s to be able to achieve. And then you have to do residencies after that, so you're in school for a long time. And then I looked at anesthesiology, kind of same thing, like it requires years and years of residency. They're incredibly smart people, and there again, it's not that I didn't think that I was smart enough, it was just like, do I want to devote as much time as is necessary, and also being on call. So I didn't want to be an MD because I didn't want to be on call. Most MD situations you're on call. There are definitely pharmacist situations where you're on call. By all means, like our administrative director is on call on the weekends, and I will take her on-call shifts when she's on vacation or something too. So I still am on call occasionally, but it's not like at all times. And that was just really important for me. One of my best friends is a surgical veterinarian, and she is so smart and she loves what she does, and she's on call at all times. She loves that, and that really works for her. It didn't happen to work for me, and so pharmacy just kind of fit for those reasons.
Okay, so how long have you been practicing as a pharmacist, and then what are some challenges that you faced on the track to becoming one?
Yeah, so 5 years. I've been practicing for 5 years. Challenges. Sometimes there's a few different challenges. So kind of chronologically, the challenges are, I think in grad school, a lot of people go through this feeling that they're not good enough or they're not smart enough, and this is a big fear for a lot of people. And I think it's important to remember that you're not alone in that, and that you are smart enough because you're there, right? So that's really important to remember. So throughout pharmacy school, I kind of got through that feeling. When I became a pharmacist, they put me into a management position, which was awesome, but it was very daunting. So for like the first 6 months of my career, it was scary. My technicians had to basically teach me, and it's really hard to be somebody's boss when they know more than you do about the computer system and what's going on. So that was challenging in itself. Coming here was challenging because I literally had only seen maybe 2 or 3 of the drugs that they dispense here before I started, and I was very honest with that up front, and they knew that, like I've never really looked at these specialty medications, but I'm a pharmacist, I have a PharmD, we're all really smart, I have the drive and the capability to learn that, but it was a solid like 9-month learning curve about these drugs. We mostly do oral oncology medications here and fertility medications, and there's a lot of research and a lot of stuff into it. So it's really a profession where you have to be okay with continuous education for yourself, not just the continuous education that's required of your license, but you have to stay on top of just educating yourself throughout the day. I think that's really important. So not only do you have to like to do that, you have to find time to do that. We are fortunate enough to have interns here. We actually currently don't have any, which is really weird for this block, but typically we always have 2 to 3 interns, and that's wonderful. I love having students here because it keeps me on my toes too, because I ask a lot of really good questions, and sometimes they don't know the answer, and then we look it up together.
Okay, so I know that there's this like admissions test, the PCAT. So could you maybe tell us a little bit about that and how you maybe studied that or approached it?
I actually can't, because I actually didn't take the PCAT.
Oh, okay.
The PCAT was not required for my college, and I actually never interviewed for pharmacy school. They lost my early admissions program application as well, which typically they do have people interview for that. And the day that I was going in for my undergrad, just kind of like the first day of school, basically. It's like the registration day or whatever.
Right.
You're going in and you're looking at all the classes, and they saw my name on my name tag, and they were like, "Oh, we found your application. Do you still want to do this?" And I was like, "Yes, yes, I do." So I actually never interviewed for pharmacy school, and I never took a PCAT, mostly because my college didn't require it. I did watch my friend study for the PCAT. It didn't look that bad to me. And I know that I don't think she got the best score on it, but they accepted her anyway.
Okay.
I think the PCAT's important. I think really what they're looking for more, or what most colleges are looking for, like I helped with the admissions process of my college once I was a pharmacy student. They want experience. Or not even like work experience, but shadowing experience,
right.
or to show that you know a little bit about what you're going into before you go into it. So she had been a technician for like 10 years before applying to pharmacy school. So even though she didn't get the best score on the PCAT, she's got a lot of background in pharmacy, and it would be easy to look at her application, I would assume, and say, okay, she knows what she's getting into, which I think is important.
So, after you achieved your PharmD, like, what was it like searching for a job? Like, was it difficult? Did you get job offers right away, or?
Yeah, so typically your college is very instrumental in helping you find a job. They always tell you to get a pharmacy licensed in the state that you graduate from, because if something happens and you're out of a job or you have nowhere to go, they're going to be your best resource if you have no other contacts. So colleges will typically always do like round robin interviews really around this time for like graduating students. I guess you guys graduate around like June or something. But they'll do kind of interviews for that so that you can do that. A lot of people will do residencies, which you have a matching program for residencies, so that's pretty much taken care of. Pharmacy is a very small world. You'll hear that a lot. Yeah, especially if you go to pharmacy school, all of your professors will probably say pharmacy is a small world. They said that to us all the time, and it's really true. Like when you get out and you start networking, you start to kind of meet other people in that area. So most jobs are kind of gotten through word of mouth. Not all of them, but a lot of them are just a reference of somebody. I actually wanted to move back to Austin. I lived here when I was a kid, so I wanted to move back to Austin. I just applied online. So I just applied to Target online and got the job. That's not super common, but it happens. And I tell people that all the time, like particularly students that we have rotate through that are looking to move to a different state but don't necessarily have any connections. I just tell them, like, first step, you just apply, because you never know what's going to happen. So I think that the market is pretty saturated, particularly here in Austin. I know I've had some friends that have found difficulty finding jobs that they really want, but I think at the same time there's quite a bit of job security, particularly if you're comfortable with going rural, or if you're comfortable with kind of starting as maybe like a relief work pharmacist, or a pharmacist that's okay with kind of shifting around, and then you get a home store later. But I don't think it's too incredibly hard to find a job. Okay. This opportunity actually just came up for me. I wasn't really looking. Becky, the administrative director, reached out to me because she was my trainer at Target.
Okay. So when you first started off as a pharmacist, like at Target, what were some like initial challenges like you faced, like mistakes or like just things that were hard for you?
I think that, not to get up on a soapbox about this or anything, but I think that just being, so I was 23 when I graduated, and just being a younger woman was hard.
Okay.
And I think that was hard, not necessarily because I didn't get the respect that I deserved from the rest of my team, but sometimes you're just looked at differently by patients. It doesn't happen all the time by any means, but I mean, you just, those realities hit you when you're forced to be in a professional position and you start getting talked down to. I had a patient one time, he told me that I should know where the dishwashing soap was because I was a woman. So you just you just kind of encounter these weird situations. For the most part, that doesn't really happen. So that's not like a huge challenge, but it catches you off guard when that does happen. I'd say the other challenge was just kind of trying to get my staff behind me and respect me when they're the ones training me, and I think that a big way to do that is to lead by example. So I never wanted to ask them to do something that I couldn't do myself. I never wanted them to have all the responsibility of being able to do something. Like if I don't know how to do it, then I want them to teach me how to do it so that I can teach other people too. Or maybe if they're gone, I can do it. So I think kind of picking up your own slack is good as well.
So you said that in 10th grade you kind of narrowed down on wanting to be a pharmacist by the process of elimination. Would you say that it's a good fit for you?
Yeah, I'd say it's a great fit. I love what I do. It's awesome. Every day is a challenge. Every day goes by super fast. You guys showed up and I was like, whoa, it's 2. It's a great profession. I'm very happy with it. I think a lot of that has to do with my positioning, and a lot of that has to do with the companies that I've worked for. Target was an excellent company to work for. My team was fabulous. This is a great place to work. All my coworkers are great. There are some situations that I've heard where it's just not that fun to work in, and I would, want people to move out of those situations, but I don't think that it's ever been like the job of being a pharmacist. I think it's just like certain pockets of situations you can get into aren't the best. And I think that'll happen with any career. So evaluating your happiness is important, but yeah, I think it's a great job.
So, would you say that being a pharmacist is like rewarding?
Oh yeah, it's very rewarding, particularly here. So we do medications. I mean, these medications out of pocket are $10,000+ of dollars, or $10,000+ per month of treatment, right? And so you're talking oncology medications. So these medications are really to extend a person's life, sometimes even by a few months, so they can spend some more time with their family. Even if these medications are covered under their insurance, a lot of times their first fill is like $3,000 out of pocket. So we do financial assistance here at Avella as well. So a lot of times we can get those copays down to free for the patient. And it's very rewarding to call them and say, here's your medication, it's free. When you know how expensive that drug is. So I would say it's incredibly rewarding. It gets very rewarding too when you catch mistakes. It gets very rewarding when you find something clinically that isn't right and you rectify that with the doctor. So it's very rewarding to be able to work as a team setting too, to be able to communicate with the doctors and nurses as well.
Okay, so I'm not really sure how this works, but do you specialize in anything, and if so, why did you choose to specialize?
Yeah, so pharmacists can certainly specialize in things. There's a lot of different certifications that you can get. I technically, like, if you want to be like untechnical and unformal about it, then I specialize in oncology medications, oral oncology medications, and I specialize in fertility, but that's just kind of a byproduct of working here. I don't have any certifications for that. You can become a board certified pharmacy specialist, and you can actually get your certification in different areas. So I could become a board certified oncology specialist if I so chose to. I don't necessarily need it, but my company would pay for it if I wanted to do that. So that'd be a cool way to go. You have some people that specialize in nutrition and some people that specialize in diabetes management, and then you have residents, and as a resident you do a first-year residency, which is kind of a general residency, and then you can do a second-year residency, or PGY2 is what they call it, and you can specialize in a certain area, so oncology or emergency medicine or stuff like that. So there's lots of different specialties out there. I do hold licenses, pharmacy licenses in 7 states. Right now, mostly because the company paid for it and they needed me to, because we do mail order to other states, and some other states require the pharmacist in charge to be licensed in those states. So I have quite a few licenses, but I don't necessarily specialize in those states.
Okay, so do you think you could like walk us through a typical day of you being a pharmacist working here? Like, what do you do?
I come in and everybody comes to me for questions. That's a big part of my day. So as a pharmacist, even if you're not a manager, you're still managing a team. Like, you're still the person that can technically do everything in the pharmacy. So even though we always have 2+ pharmacists, you should be able to go with any of the pharmacists with like a managerial type question as far as like patient care goes, and they should be able to help you with that. So myself and the other pharmacists, we switch off doing data verification and product verification. So data verification is confirming that the prescription matches what our technicians have entered into the computer system, and then product verification is confirming that what's supposed to go out the door is going out the door correctly. So we're actually looking at the product. Data verification is really funny to me because, and that's in retail, you're doing both of those things at once. So at the very end, you're scanning the bottle and you're making sure the bottle's correct and all the stuff is right. And it only takes about, I don't know, 20 to 30 seconds to actually data verify a prescription, depending on what it is, for sure. But in that 20 to 30 second time, I mean, that's a lot of what you're using your degree for. Because not only are you assessing that all the information matches, but you're assessing, well, is this clinically appropriate?
Right.
Is this the right dose? Is this the right strength? Does this make sense for the patient's disease state? Does this make sense for the patient in general? Does it make sense with their allergies? Does it make sense with the other medications that they're on? So you're processing a lot of information that you take from school, and you're shrinking it down to a very small time period. And I'd say that being able to multitask is key in pharmacy. Like you can't do pharmacy without being able to multitask and being able to appropriately triage things. So in a typical day, I'm doing both data verification and product verification usually when I'm back in product verification. So I'm trying to triage through all those prescriptions, and then I also manage phone calls sometimes from patients. I do patient counseling, so we call the patient the day after they receive the medication to go over that. I write something called SOAP notes, subjective, objective, assessment and plan, and you get super used to those in any sort of medical profession. And it's basically just, here's what the patient says is going on, here's what I think about it, here's what we're going to do about it. So we write those and we send those to the doctors when a patient reports a side effect or something like that. And then I do other managerial things. I don't have to create a schedule because we only hire full-time technicians, but approving vacation and or not approving vacation, or trying to kind of figure out workflow a little bit better. So there's a lot of kind of other ancillary things that I do here.
So are there any specific instances in your time as a pharmacist that stand out? So maybe if you received an award, or if you've had like an interesting interaction with a patient or a coworker.
I did get an award at Target. I got Rookie of the Year after the first year, Pharmacist Rookie of the Year, whatever, after the first year that I was there, and that was really cool. That was just nice to know that they thought that I was doing a good job with my store. So that was really sweet. You know, some of the things that you remember in pharmacy, because really your job is perfection, right? Like your job is to be perfect at all times, and that just doesn't happen. People make mistakes, and I make mistakes. And so it's how you fix those mistakes that's really important. So some of the things, like if you're like, tell me about a crazy situation, what pops up is those mistakes, you know, and I don't think about them all the time, and it's really important to be honest and open with the patient when that happens, and to be honest and open with the doctor's office when that happens, and to report everything. I've never had a situation, I've never, thank goodness, had a mistake be so bad where it was really detrimental to their therapy or anything like that, but they do happen. So while I don't have like one specific instance that I can think of, it's like the worst case scenario, those are really what pop into my head. But I don't think about those all the time because the goal is perfection.
Right. So what would you say maybe are your strengths and weaknesses like as a pharmacist?
Yeah, so I think I'm really good at I want to say anger management of patients. I think I'm good at calming people down when they get really upset. I've talked to quite a few patients that way, and I have a good understanding of. There are some patients where you just can't say anything right, and that's okay. I think I have a lot of empathy, and I think I let things roll off my back really easily. And I think that's important because I move quickly. So I also think I'm very fast and I triage very quickly. And that's a really important trait to me. So if somebody was mean to me, or if somebody, you know, I felt like was just totally out of line, but I had to stay professional and calm, like if I let that ruin my day, then I potentially am setting myself up for mistakes. I'm setting myself up to not be the best that I can be for other patients, and I'm just setting myself up to feel really bad throughout the day. So I think I have the ability to just kind of roll with things, and try to calm people down as best I can. Some people just can't be calmed down, and that's okay. And I'd say, as far as weaknesses go, this is like the typical job interview weakness that you never want to say, which is I think that Like I try to take on too much responsibility, or I work too hard, but that can really be detrimental in this situation because one, when you take on too much responsibility, you just overwork yourself and that's no fun for you. You don't learn proper delegation skills to your staff, which like I said, even if you're not a pharmacy manager, you should have. And three, you don't appropriately teach other people how to actually do things. So if you're constantly doing things for other people, they're never going to learn how to do it themselves, and that's critical. Like, what if you're out for a week or something? Like, they need to know how to do what they're doing. So that is something that I've always continuously tried to work on, is delegating more to people, particularly if it's something that I know that I can do really quickly. I have to relinquish that and just delegate it off to other people.
Okay, so our last question for you. So for anyone interested in becoming a pharmacist, what kind of advice would you give?
I would say to research into the field and to look at different types of pharmacies. So pharmacists, I think a lot of people just have this picture that you're behind the counter at like a CVS or Walgreens and you're like counting pills. I think that's a really common picture of pharmacists, and I'm not saying that's not what we do, because we certainly can do that. But I would say to get an understanding and to just see if you can shadow around different jobs. I personally shadowed a pharmacist who worked in a hospital. My mom kind of hooked me up with that because she's a nurse. So she had me shadow I think he specialized in cardiology in the ICU or something. But I got to just kind of spend a day with him and see what that was like, and that was really cool. So I would encourage people to get out and look at the field and see if that's something that they're interested in. And I would also really encourage anyone to think about what their 10-year or 20-year life goals are. Like, is your goal to be so incredibly focused and happy in your career that like you wake up in the morning and that's what you think about and that's what you want to do? That's amazing. Pick something that's going to make you that happy. Is your goal to be able to be really happy in a job and to feel really fulfilled and like you're actually helping people, but then be able to go home at the end of the day and not think about any of that? That's totally fine too. Is your goal to just make a lot of money and you really don't care what you're doing? That's fine too, it really just depends on what your goal is. And my goal was to be able to have a really good work-life balance and to be challenged and have a really good career that incorporated my strengths, which were math and science. And so this just really fit for me.
All right, that's all we have.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, yeah. No problem.